James Jenkins, you are in the insurance business,
Yep.
which is pretty interesting because every HVAC person needs insurance, but I don't think a lot of times we realize how important it is until something happens.
You're absolutely right, man. It's kind of scary. The number of people we talk to that have insurance but haven't looked at it. They know they have an agent, but they don't really know their agent. They don't have confidence that their agent understands their business or is giving them good advice. The insurance world, man, it is not the most exciting thing for most people. So we created HVAC Insure as a standalone program that is designed to make things as easy as possible for folks in the HVAC, refrigeration, plumbing, electrical world. Because I mean, probably 6 out of 10 folks in the HVAC world that I know also do plumbing and electrical. Either they do it in house if they're big enough, or they sub it out and collect revenue split there. But it's never just HVAC. It's always HVAC plus something else. The insurance implications, the risk management implications, whether we're talking about driver safety programs or OSHA compliance or return to work or environmental concerns. There's so many things that directly impact your listener. You HVAC professional that's sitting here listening to this show, watching this video on YouTube or wherever you find it. These are things that have nothing to do with an insurance policy, but they have everything to do with risk management, and it impacts your bottom line. Our job as HVAC insurer is to make sure that as much of your top line makes its way to your bottom line.
Yeah.
Because any claim that we help you avoid or help you be better prepared for that, I mean, that goes to your bottom line because you didn't spend those dollars. I think the
Yeah.
sneakiest part of this whole conversation is opportunity cost. If we can streamline the risk management and insurance process, let the HVAC professional spend less time and have more confidence that they're properly protected, that everything is set up the way that it should be on the insurance side of things, that all the risk management pieces are in place to make sure that you're utilizing your insurance as little as possible and being properly protected. That's kind of the whole game right there.
Yeah.
That's as close as I'll get to a pitch in this episode because I know we
Yeah.
want to stick to education and making sure that
Yeah.
people are making wise decisions.
Yeah, and that's what the show is for, and that's what it's about, and I think that's why people watch, and that's why I actually wanted to interview you because a lot of people send me DMs and stuff like that. I don't think we met on a DM. I think we met in one of the groups, but
Yep.
you and I had a talk, and it was really, really good. And I'm going to tell you why. So, as an HVAC contractor, because you understand the trades world from our talk before, we had a great talk. So me running my business, it's been 21 years. I never cared about insurance. All I knew was that I have to have insurance. I mean, I'm not ignorant. I wasn't born yesterday, so I know, hey, I need to have insurance in case something happens, blah, blah, blah. I never knew how important it was to have a good insurance policy until something happened, right? And let me tell you a couple things that happened to me is one of the first real big incidences that I had, and we hope nothing ever happens, right? That's the goal, and we'll talk about that. We'll talk about training and risk management. All that is important. But the first thing is we had a vehicle incident, right? And I'll never forget somebody hit one of our drivers. It wasn't our fault, and it was an uninsured driver. And they tried to sue us because we have signs all over our truck, and you have all that, and they tried to sue and our insurance went to bat for us. Right away. It was easy. The claim was easy. I called, they answered the phone. It wasn't confusing for me as an HVAC contractor. I don't know what collisions and deductible. I mean, I have the basic knowledge. Only thing that mattered was that they were there.
Yep.
Right? And when you price insurance, I don't know what your rates are. I never got a quote from you, but a lot of times what happens is contractors will just compare and then they'll go with the cheapest. That doesn't work when something happens, right? And so a lot of times it's not just about the cheapest quote, it's about what are they gonna do when something happens? Are they gonna show up? Right? So
Yep.
that's my view of it.
The one thing that just sticks out to me instantly from that, Michael, is the phrase that I find myself going back to time and time again. Does it really matter if the price is right? if the product is wrong.
Mm,
If you bought the wrong thing, if you got something off the shelf, if you got something from an agent or a broker who does a little bit of this, a little bit of that, they might write a landscaping company, they'll write a deli, they'll write a flower shop, they'll write a laundromat, they'll write an HVAC company. They write a lot of home, a lot of auto, a lot of motorcycle, a lot of rental property. They write all of it. Are they going to give you the best advice as an HVAC contractor? I would submit to you it is very unlikely that they will because they don't have a demonstrated expertise in your industry. They're not going to know to ask the specific questions. Like, a few years ago, there was environmental changes and the entire Freon system was swapped out. Okay, we've got new Freon, new chemicals. You can't use the old stuff. Everybody has to retrofit or get brand new stuff. Like you can't use the old stuff. Now it's environmentally, concerned. They're not going to know to ask you about what kind of compressor are you installing? Are you still using old stuff from the manufacturer that they had a recall on? Are you installing the proper equipment as far as ducting and
right.
whatnot? Like, are you following procedure the way you're supposed to be? Or are you doing stuff that is going to be likely to result in a claim? Either damage to someone's property or an accident, an injury, disease to someone on your team. And
Yeah.
you mentioned the auto exposure. That's other than like heat exhaustion and someone getting in a bad spot because they're in a really hot attic and they have some sort of work comp claim because they had to go to the hospital for heat stroke. Auto related incidents are some of the most common issues that HVAC contractors have with their
Mhm.
insurance.
It's the
It-
thing for me that I mean, that's kept me up at night, a lot of times. And, when my technicians call me, they call me all the time, right? And that's my first thought is, oh my gosh, did they get in a car accident? Right? Because they're on the road, it's a huge liability. But that's the thing, and I want to ask you this is a lot of times because that's so, I guess, so obvious, auto. But I was talking to an insurance person. This was a couple years ago. And he asked me, he said, hey, so if somebody smells a chemical, if your guys are in and they're putting silicone down or they spill something, they spill some oil, and the homeowner smells it and gets dizzy, does your insurance cover you on that? Right? And I had never heard of that before.
Yep.
I never even heard of that.
Yep.
And so I said, you know what? I don't know, but I'm going to check. And I called my insurance. Sure enough, I was not covered on that. And we deal with things. We deal with chemicals all the time.
Yep.
We deal with microbial growth all the time where we spill stuff and we clean it up. And all you need is for someone to say, that the thing that you cleaned up or that caulking that you used caused a fume and my kid got sick. And your policy only has auto and building damage,
Yep.
right? So there's a lot of risk there. So talk about that.
Sure. What you're describing, Michael, is a perfect example of a use case where environmental liability, otherwise known as pollution liability, is going to be a huge component to be making sure is included in your package. There's two different ways you can get anything that's not just your basic slip and fall general liability insurance, your basic property damage insurance. You can either have it be as a part of your package, which commonly is referred to as a business owner policy or a BOP in insurance agent lingo. You can have it be included on your package policy, or you can have it be on a standalone basis where it just kind of fits right up next to the other policy, but it stands on its own. It's got its own policy number, got its own premium associated with it, almost without exception. You're going to have much broader coverage, much fewer exclusions, much fewer limitations with standalone coverage, unless you really dial in the options. And it's going to take an agent who really understands your business and knows what's going on, has read the policy, every word on those 147 pages or whatever it is. So they can explain it to you in simple language and say, hey, here's the list of exclusions on the policy. These are the ones that are always excluded. These are the ones we need to talk about getting removed for additional premium being paid or whatever. Because most things are negotiable. Most things you can find a way around it. There's a workaround, there's a different carrier, there's a different underwriter to talk to. But in particular, environmental or pollution liability is available as a coverage with almost every carrier that writes. HVAC companies. You just have to ask for it sometimes. If the agent doesn't include it automatically, it's a good indication that they probably don't really understand HVAC as an industry. Because when we write an HVAC account, it's one of the things on our checklist.
Yeah.
It's not at the top of the checklist, but it's on the checklist.
Yeah, because you understand it, and that's the thing is, and I see this all the time with the big Facebook groups. I run a couple of them, and every now and then an insurance thing will pop up. Right, someone will jump on there and say, "Hey, who do you use for insurance?" And people start putting companies, and they're just spreading. And you're using some sort of I won't name the big guys, right? But you're using these random people that are, I guess, in the strip malls, and they don't
Yep.
understand the industry. So you end up walking out of there with a general liability in a commercial auto if you're lucky, and you're not covered. And so I see these people post, and someone will say, "My insurance is only $10,000 a year," and somebody will say, "Well, my insurance is 20,000 a year," and someone will say, "You guys are crazy. My insurance is $1,000 a year." Well, it doesn't. You can't compare things like that.
Sure.
It's about, are covered. Are you going to be educated? Most insurances, and you can speak on it. I don't. I'll let you speak on yours, but most insurances are going to help you kind of mitigate risk. Like, hey, by the way, are you training your guys on ladder safety? And most people don't realize, if you have a workman's comp policy, you may say, hey, well, I have workman's comp. I have this. I have this. If you have a workman's comp policy and your employee falls off of a ladder and hurts himself, and you never trained your employee on how to properly use a ladder, it may not matter what your insurance says, right? Because you put your employees on a roof, you didn't give them the thing to tie off, so they fell off and hurt
Yep.
themselves, right? Your insurance is not covering that. And a lot of insurance companies will help you understand, hey, here's a binder. Hey, make sure you're having your training meetings. If they understand the industry, they'll do that. Or you can end up with an insurance company that just writes it and disappears forever.
Yep. The response that I would say very simply, this is an insurance agent joke. You don't have to laugh because it's not that funny. Negligence is not an exclusion on most policies, because just because you made a mistake doesn't mean you're not covered. Just because there's a big fat oopsie somewhere doesn't mean you're not covered. Stupidity is also not an exclusion on these policies. It doesn't matter if your employee did something completely boneheaded, where it's like, why on earth did you think that was a good idea? Pulling out into oncoming traffic because you were on your phone? Yeah. Guess what? It's probably still covered,
Okay.
because I mean, it just goes back to your point of, are you just buying a policy, or is it going to respond the way that it's supposed to? Because let me tell you, man, the $1,000 a year policy, you can get that right now. You can go out to Buyberg or Next or Hiscox or Coterie. There's a lot of these online digital brokerages that are perfectly happy to sell you an HVAC BOP policy or a GL policy. And yeah, it's super cheap. But if you get in there, if you really dig in and see exactly what it is that you're covered for, more times than not, you get what you pay for in
Yeah,
insurance.
for sure.
You absolutely do. And you know what? I don't mind naming names. When you and I spoke, you said that you were with Federated, and
Mhm.
Federated is a captive carrier. They only write their own product. They don't shop around to other carriers. They just write their own house product. And Federated is a good company. They have territorial exclusivity. So your agent is only working in a very specific geography. And they are just the old fashioned salespeople. They will make their rounds and they will show up at your office once a quarter like clockwork,
For sure. For
selling
sure.
you something, checking
Mhm.
on something.
For
Hey, I
sure.
brought you a box of cookies. How's it going? Like that's just how they do business. That being said, they're also very, very limited in their ability to get creative with structure. And if it's out of appetite, which a lot of stuff is out of appetite, and they don't have any other options because they only sell one flavor of policy. So,
Mhm.
as with anything else, there's give and there's take. A lot of folks will send us a Next policy because Next advertises everywhere. They're on lots of websites, they're on TV, they're on, podcasts and whatnot. Next is very easy to work with,
Yeah.
but their policy, in my experience, is woefully inadequate. Lots and lots and lots of exclusions, lots of opportunities for the insurance company to get away with not paying a claim. Because at the end of the day, if a policy only costs X number of dollars. And you think about it, if I have a claim, it's going to be 50 times what the premium is of the policy. How in the world is that insurance company ever going to be profitable? Well, the answer is they don't pay claims. Thank you for your $1,000. We're not
Mhm.
paying anything because there's 12,000 exclusions on your policy. So,
Yeah.
what is the solution for this? Because most people don't. We've already lost half the audience because they're bored with this conversation. Here,
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'll tell you what they'll understand is it's like home warranty. Every HVAC contractor understands home warranty,
yep.
right? Homeowner buys a product and home warranty comes and says, "Hey, you pay me $30 a month, and if your AC breaks, then we'll fix it." Listen, I have been in business for a long time. I have yet, and people don't believe me when I say this, right? So there's people at my church and stuff that have a home warranty, and I say the same statement. I say, I've been doing HVAC for 21 years. I have never once seen a home warranty payout.
Oh,
That's 21 years, not once. And so that's sort of the same thing that happens. And I was with Next for a while, actually. I didn't have an incident, but I didn't find
but
that
you
they
had a
were.
real good premium, didn't you?
I had a premium, but I could never get a hold of them. I always had to chat in. I could only
Yep.
chat in, then they would email me a week later. And I can't really operate like that.
Now,
But
I mean, at the end of the day, my one big question for everybody listening to this is just in a general sense. What do you want your insurance program to do? What do you want your risk management program to do? That's where you need to buy the insurance. You need to buy for the outcome that you want to see. For me, for what I want to see very quickly is the claim needs to get paid fairly and fast.
it needs to be
If the
fast.
it doesn't need to take 3 months.
Yeah.
It needs to take a couple of weeks of discovery. "Hey, I need to get you on a recorded phone line so we can ask you some questions. What happened? Do you have any evidence? Do you have any documentation?"
Pretty
Where
scary.
I'm sitting, it's all about opportunities to deliver value. One of my favorite quotes in business, and I know just from talking to you and the work that you do, the charitable stuff, the nonprofit work, the mission trips that you go on and build stuff in other countries, I know you definitely get it. And I think this was Maya Angelou, I think was the one who said this first, the civil rights activist. People will forget most of what you say, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And it's like my whole career of doing this for 13 years, I've only seen two total loss situations. Both of them were at residences. One was due to a tornado, one was due to a house fire. And in both of those situations, there I'm going to get emotional thinking about it right now. There is nothing like standing there with someone who's going through a devastating moment, one of the worst days of their life, and just putting your arm around them, weeping with them, and saying, "Hey, you know what? We're going to do everything able to do to make this get back to normal as best it can, as quick as it can." And what a privilege. That is the meat and potatoes of the
Mhm,
insurance industry right there. Those are the best days when we get to show up on someone's worst day, whether it's a
mhm,
lawsuit, when it's a dead employee, because
mm,
someone got electrocuted,
mm.
with someone, had a slip and fall off of a ladder and broke their neck, or, someone catches mesothelioma from asbestos from 10 years ago or whatever. Or it's simply an employee is suing you for sexual harassment or discrimination or something. Those are the worst days for business owners. You and I are business owners. We lead a team. We're leaders of other humans. And those are the worst days. But to be able to be there, man, I'll never sit that one out. Any insurance agent that doesn't show up when they get the opportunity to show up and physically show up, man, take your job more seriously. Come on.
Yeah,
'Cause I'm not going
it's
to show up at every claim. It's not
right.
possible. But I promise you, if I've got a great client and they need help, if I'm not personally there, I
Mhm.
guarantee you there's a representative there. If they're not from the
Yeah,
carrier, they're going to
at
be
least
from.
someone to walk you through. I mean, don't I'm an HVAC person. I can handle
Yeah.
HVAC problems, right? But when something like that happens,
Yep.
I need your support. I need the insurance person's support, and this guy couldn't even get him on the phone.
Well, and here is what you should be expecting. The moment that someone brings it up, the agent, the broker should be able to say, "All right, first off, take a deep breath. You're going to be just fine. Second off, Here's what's about to happen. Let me just call the place for you so we can set it up. I'm going to tell you exactly how this is going to go. They're going to call you to take a statement. They're going to take statements from them, and them. They're going to figure out what's going on. They're going to ask you for pictures. Was there a dash cam in the vehicle? Did you take pictures of the work site before you got started? Please, 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 please take lots of pictures before you start on a job. Take pictures during. I mean, you should have all kinds of regular checklist stuff, Michael. We could have a whole conversation
Actually,
just on
let's
loss
talk
control.
about that. I want to talk about that because I think this is going to make for the best insurance episode on the internet ever. What we're going to talk about right now.
Yeah, man.
This going to make it worth it. Okay.
So the last thing I'll say about the claim situation, expect and demand that your agent or broker, folks, ask them questions ahead of time. Hey, if this kind of claim happens, what should I expect?
Yes.
Grill them. If there's
Mhm.
anything you're worried about, if there's any kind of claim situation that makes you nervous, Mr. and Mrs. Insurance Agent, I'm really nervous about this particular kind of claim. One of my friends down the street had this happen. If this happened to me, how would that go?
So you're
And then,
telling me, James, if I call you, so you're my insurance company. If I call the insurance company and ask that question, hey, I just have a question. It's not about my policy. What would happen if this happened? So they're going to talk to me. They're going to
yeah,
explain it to me.
they better. It's a hypothetical, man. Because here's the thing. You really need to be open and honest with your insurance professional, with your risk management professional, because we don't have attorney client confidentiality or whatever, but we do have a responsibility to give you the best possible advice. We
Mhm.
do have a responsibility to guide you in something that you don't really understand and help
Mhm.
you make the most appropriate decision for your business. Withholding information from the person who's responsible for advising you is
Yeah.
not a good idea.
Yeah.
So then that's all I'll say on the claim situation. Expect them to be able to walk you through it. If they can't give you peace of mind before the loss, what makes you think they're going to be able to give you peace of mind after the loss?
Yeah. 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 And okay, so this is what I want to ask you. Okay. So, and this is my experience in having, unfortunately, we had two traffic incidents and we had that incident I just told you about. So there's a saying, and I'm going to tie this into business. There's a saying because I do volunteer at church. I go on mission trips. I mentor a lot of young men, right? So on a personal saying, I always say it's one thing for someone to lie on you, to tell lies about you. It's another thing that because of your actions, the lies seem true. Those are two different things. Okay.
Yep.
And so this is how this ties into business is when something happens, this is what is going to happen. Someone else's insurance or some person, if they try to sue you or the other insurance tries to put it on you, they're going to paint a picture of what happened. Okay. Now, what they're going to want is they're going to want the invoices. They're gonna want photos. If you have no photos of the job, so now you're saying, "No, I was here, I changed that thermostat, but not that one." You don't have any photos, or if you say, "Actually, I never came here on Saturday the 5th. We were on here 2 days after that." Okay, do you have an invoice with the date? You don't have it because you don't keep your receipts and everything's on paper and it's missing. You are going to want to document everything. If you tell a homeowner, "Hey, I'm changing the upstairs system, not the downstairs," it needs to say in your receipt, replaced upstairs system. If you didn't change the thermostat, it needs to say homeowner opted out of thermostat. You need to have photos of everything that you did. You need to have signed contracts, all of that stuff that seems common sense, but also can seem old school and like it's doing too much. When something happens, and this is what happened with my situation, we had photos, we had permits. That's a big one. A lot of companies have license, but they say, "Oh, permit. I don't have to pull a permit if
Folks,
I
you
do the job
you
right."
better pull the permit. You better freaking pull
Yes.
the permit.
Yes.
Just don't mess around with permits, man. Don't do it.
That's the first
It
thing
ain't
they
worth the
asked.
risk.
That is the first thing they asked when I went on that property. "Hey, do you have the permit?" Because what happens if I didn't pull a permit? I did unlicensed work, illegal work, right? I had a permit, I had photos, I had dates, I had this. I mean, let me tell you, James, these investigators pulled the thermostats off the walls and wrote the serial numbers of the thermostats down
Yep.
and traced where they were purchased from.
Now, let me tell you, Michael, just to kind of circle the wagons on the point that you made from earlier in our conversation. about work that you had performed on a house several years ago. For North Carolina, it's 10. For a lot of states, it's 7. It's about the statute of limitations on accusations of negligence or wrongdoing or whatever. In Texas, I believe it's 7 years. It's just going to depend on what state you're in. You can look up the state statute of limitations for property damage claims or whatever and see what it is. On your liability policy, there's going to be 2 basic sections of it. Ongoing operations, work that is in the middle of being performed. The moment you step foot on a job site, you have ongoing operations exposure. The moment you're done, the second you put the tool bag back in the truck, shake the hand of the homeowner or the business owner, and move on to the next job, you're no longer on the premises. It is now a completed operation. Completed operation exposure is different from ongoing operation exposure.
Mm, okay.
You got a separate bucket of coverage in your policy for each one of those. And the thing is, without getting too far into the weeds, because I don't want to get deep in the weeds, the typical GL policy, general liability policy, is written on what's called an occurrence basis. So it doesn't matter if the policy that was in effect as of the time that the incident occurred is still in effect. Because let's say you change insurance companies over the course
Mhm.
of time, lots of
Give
companies,
give me that
which
in layman's give me that sentence in basic non-insurance terms.
you will see there's 2 different kinds of loss handling in the insurance world for general liability, for property, for whatever. Occurrence and claims made.
Okay.
Occurrence is broader coverage. Occurrence says if the occurrence of the incident happened during the policy term, let's say your policy from January 1 to December 31 of 2025,
Mhm.
if the loss occurred on September 10th, 2025, that's during the policy term. It
Mhm.
occurred during the policy term. Therefore, it is a valid claim as far as occurrence goes. Claims made is more restrictive. And this is more typical on professional liability, environmental, some other kinds of other insurance, not necessarily the main stuff that everybody buys, but a claims made policy typically costs less. There are general liability policies that are claims made. They suck. The coverage is terrible. They're typically very inexpensive. Claims made is different from occurrence in that both the occurrence of the loss and the claim have to occur during the policy period, or there's no coverage.
Okay.
So if there is a delay of weeks, months, years before the loss is discovered, there could be no coverage at all.
Okay. Okay.
So
So
occurrence is always better than claims made. If you see claims made coverage form in your policy, ask questions about it with your agent. They need
claims
to
made.
explain
Okay.
why it's like that.
So
Because
if
occurrence,
someone is listening to this because they're not insurance people, they're going to forget
yeah,
99.99% of what you just
yes,
said.
they are.
They need to ask about the claims made occurrence.
Well, it's either occurrence or claims made, one or the
Okay.
other.
So
And
if
you're going
they
to
see
see it in
claims
your
made,
policy.
they need to ask
If you
about
see
that.
claims made, just ask your agent because that's not good. It
I
should
love
be
it.
occurrence.
Love it.
So the main thing that I want to point out and why it's so important to not skip on the completed operations coverage. What is the likelihood that something's going to happen while you're on a job site? It's not that big. It's not a
No,
high
I
percentage.
mean, this situation that I'm talking about happened 6 years later.
What is the likelihood out of all the claims filed? What is the likelihood that something happens after you leave the job site?
Okay.
The completed operations exposure is just as important as the ongoing operations exposure. And some policies aren't very good at that. Some policies will place sublimits or exclusions on what you can get covered, damage
Yeah.
to your work or damage to your equipment or tools or whatever. You probably are going to need to have professional liability included at all times. I can't think of any situation where an HVAC person listening to this show would be okay skipping professional liability. Bodily injury and property damage is all general liability is going to cover. There's a slip and fall, there's damage to someone's property, that's it. But if it's your negligence that caused damage to someone's property, that's professional liability. And
Yeah.
contractors professional liability, otherwise known as contractors E&O for errors and omissions,
Yeah.
or for those attorneys out there, the running joke in our world is E&O stands for excitement and opportunity because when attorneys get a hold of it, they see excitement and opportunity because they get to sue you.
Yeah. And so let me tell you, so let me go back to this. This is why it's very important. And some of this is insurance, some of it's just general business practice. is it's very important to have detailed everything that you did
Yes.
on that job. Okay, so I am replacing condenser, replacing air handler, connecting wires to box, having all of that so that when something happens and the homeowner says, I think so 5 years ago, the AC guy did this and this and this, and he also went and did this and this in the panel because they forgot that they hired someone else to do it. Do you have a document that says you did this, you did this, you did this, you did this, and they signed it? Right. And I'll tell you what happened on this house, this lost house. It's completely closed out. It's been closed out for a while. But someone went into the electrical box of my air conditioning system that I installed 6 years in the past. Someone went into the box, installed something inside that electrical box of my unit that caused a fire. The insurance asked me, did you put that inside of that box? I said, no, we don't go in the box. We hire an electrician to handle all that. I had it on my paper. Reconnect wires to electrical to be completed by licensed electrician. And they asked me, do you have a photo of that box when you left that property? I said, I absolutely do. Our photo didn't have a thing hanging out on the bottom of it from 6 years ago. So it
Right.
proved that this happened later. Now,
Yep.
I mean, my insurance probably would have covered me, but how much easier is it if you actually say, okay, I'm going to take the extra 5 minutes on a job. When I was Air Force, I was working on airplanes. They said the job's not done till the paperwork's done, right? How important is it to take the extra 5 minutes after you fix the AC, build the customer, to take those pictures and upload them into your thing and then write down what you did? 5 minutes. It's important, and all
Yep.
of this ties together. But I want to ask you a question, okay? Because you alluded to this. Is when we talk about I guess pre-incident or preventing incident
Yep.
in
Loss
my van.
behaviors and post-loss
Yeah.
behaviors.
So I have in my van, okay, and I learned this the hard way. I'm a guy that had to learn a lot of things the hard way. So I have in all my vans a binder. And in the binder, on the first page of the binder is the registration and all that. So it's easy to get the registration of the vehicles, has the insurance policy on it. There's a document there that says in case of incident, and it has the insurance company's phone number, right? So it says first call 911, second call the insurance, get this. To have something in place in case this happens, do this. In case this happens, do this. In case it's very important
Yep.
to have all of that in place to hand over to the insurance. Last thing you want to do is an incident happens, 2 weeks go by, and your insurance finds out about it 2 weeks later from the other insurance guy's company. They didn't even know what happened. They're surprised. Right.
Yep.
So speak on that.
Yeah, man, the best thing you can do is plan ahead and think, and this is something your agent can definitely help with. Hey, if something really bad happens, what are the things that are likely to happen? I would literally write them out in a list and go from start to finish and then rank them in order of terrible. Of all the things that could happen, what is the literal worst case scenario for your business? And then you just work backwards from there. If this happens, what's our plan? How do we want our behaviors to go if this occurs?
Mhm.
What is our playbook for mitigating the damage of this, whatever it is? Someone intentionally damages your property. Someone steals from you. There's an unauthorized transfer to a third party. Someone is belligerent and rude to a customer. Someone is drunk on the job. There is a fire in someone's property. There is a car accident. That's one of the biggest ones. Hey,
Mhm.
what is the post-loss behavior in a car accident? What should you always do? And I mean, like you said, having the playbook there is a great idea. Do you mind if I go in very specific on the car thing? Because I know you and I spoke about it in our conversation.
We did.
The one very, very specific thing that I just flat out demand everyone remember to do, if at all possible, the moment that you're in an auto accident, get your phone out and press record. And then you just narrate the whole thing. Hey, this is James Jenkins. I'm here in my work vehicle. Where are we at? I'm at the intersection of El Dorado and Lake Forest. I was just involved in a motor vehicle accident. As you can see here, this white car, let's say the white car ran a red light and T-boned you. I was traveling westbound on El Dorado, and this vehicle apparently ran a red light, and here's the damage to the vehicle. And then you pan and go to your vehicle. Here's the damage to my vehicle. Yeah, my neck hurts, my left shoulder hurts. I'm not sure what's going on. I'm in shock right now. I don't know what hurts. But yeah, here's the situation. Hey, are you over there? Are you okay? And then you walk over to the other person involved in the incident. Are you okay? Do we need to call 911? Is everybody walking? All of our limbs are attached. Everyone's conscious. Okay, we don't need to call 911. Let's go ahead and get the police out here, call the non emergency line, alert them to a motor vehicle accident. Let's get them out here. Hey, what happened? It looks to me that you ran a red light. What happened? Oh my gosh, I didn't see it. I'm so sorry. Da 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 da. Bingo. Now
Mhm.
you got him. And now no
Amazing.
one can say it's your fault. Because here's the thing, when you start recording from the moment that this public incident happens, then you are just set up for so much success. And you may be concerned about your state's laws about recording people without their consent. If someone's in a public place, they have no presumption of privacy. They have no right to expect they have to authorize you to record them if there is some sort of incident where they are involved with you in some kind of incident. Now, some states, there may be laws that are a little bit more restrictive. Politically liberal states like Illinois, New York, Massachusetts, California are probably more strict about that sort of stuff. So if you want to be specific about this advice, just look it up with your state and see if there's any
Yeah,
laws that I'm not
of
aware
course.
of that restrict you from doing this. But in the vast majority of the country, this kind of behavior is perfectly allowable under law. When
Yeah,
you start documenting from the moment something happens, you can't possibly be in a better position than that because nothing is
yeah,
ever left up to chance. The other side of this, and this is all I'm going to say as far as the pictures and video and whatnot, going back to just routine documenting of all of your jobs. And I love that you went specifically down to like a line item of this is every individual task I've performed. That's next level, man. Let me tell you what we want people to take a picture of the work space prior to you touching anything, the scope of your work environment in its entirety before you touch anything. And then during your work, anything that looks odd or out of place or suspicious or potentially dangerous, anything, take a
yeah.
picture of it and move on.
And it's
Take notes or
fast.
whatever.
It's
Yeah.
it's very fast to just click, 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 click. It doesn't cost. You can
Yep.
take 100 pictures. If 10 of them were bad, you didn't spend money. There's really no
Yep.
reason to not just snap, 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 snap.
Well,
Right.
and when you're done with the work in a specific work field, take a picture of the finished work field. And then when you get home or get back to the office, stick it in a file, upload it into your cloud drive. If you have a CRM, like Go High Level or whatever the specifics are for your company, place it in a ticket for the CRM for that job. You know, pre-post pictures, and then move on about your day. But if
Yeah.
you are doing just a little bit of activity to protect yourself, your future self will thank you because then in the future, when you have some sort of allegation that someone brings against you, you're going to be a lot better off.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll tell you, I was looking around because I had an extra dash cam on my desk. Dash cam that faces the road and faces the driver
Yep,
is worth its weight in gold. It is worth
absolutely.
it because one, you're gonna prove that your driver wasn't texting and driving because that's gonna come up, right?
I
So,
promise you it'll come up.
yes, so you're gonna have your driver doing like this, looking at the road. It's gonna show the speed, it's gonna show the driver, and that happened in one of the wrecks that we had was we had a two-lane highway or one lane, whatever you call it. Guy literally ran in our lane and dead on hit my technician. All of it was on camera. When I arrived at the scene, the sheriff saw the dash cam in my vehicle and approached me. I wasn't driving, I came on the scene later. And he said, "Hey, sir, I see a dash cam. Do you have a camera?" I said, "I absolutely do." Pulled my iPad right there on the scene, showed it to him. The sheriff assigned fault right on the scene.
Love it.
Meanwhile, the other lady that ran off the road and hit us, sweet old lady. I mean, it wasn't her fault. She's got spooked. But the first thing she said was, "I think your driver was texting." Well, guess what? I had it on camera. My technician, female technician, she was driving like this. And then you see her do this, and then you see her do this. and you see it at the same time. And man, it was open and shut, you know.
I'm telling you, the big takeaway that I want people to carry on with them as we kind of wrap up this conversation is you've got to plan ahead. If
Yeah.
you are reactive in the way that you approach risk management, in the way that you vet and interview the agents that you choose to work with, if you're proactive, you're going to get a better product, you're going to
Yeah.
spend less money, and you're going to have better outcomes because you put a little bit of effort into preparing for the desired outcomes. And that starts with interviewing the agents that you want to consider, and then picking your chosen representative and letting that agent go to market as your representative. That
Mhm.
gives them negotiating power with underwriters. It gives them the ability to tell the insurance marketplace, I represent this business. I am the only one authorized to negotiate for them. So you need to take me seriously.
Mhm.
Negotiating with all of you. Because here's the problem that most people get into, and this is probably a great way to end the episode, and this is very clickable for later. Here's the big problem people get into. They will think that the competition needs to be at the agent or broker level of the conversation. And they go out and they get quotes from 4, 5, 6 different agents, and they set them all down on paper and they look at them, and let's be honest, they pick the cheapest one
Oh,
more times than not.
of course, because to us, it's all the same.
Nobody is going to win with that setup because who sets the pricing of the policy? Is it the agent? No. All the agent can do is mess with coverage options that bring the price up or bring the price down. The person who sets the price of the policy is the underwriter working on the account. I want the underwriters feeling like they have to compete hard to win the business for my client. And when you work with any more than one agent, you lose that negotiating leverage because you don't have one person telling your story to the marketplace. You don't
And
have
they
one
okay.
person who's negotiating with all these different underwriters. For us in HVAC Insure, we have great relationships with 8 standard programs and like 25 non-standard programs, otherwise known as the excess and surplus part of insurance, usually more appropriate for folks that have some loss history, brand new in business, do weird things that don't fit into the underwriting appetite for Hartford, Liberty Mutual, Hanover, AmTrust, Travelers, etc. Because the 8 companies that we work with, one of those 8 is guaranteed to be really competitive for your needs. But those 8 companies all have underwriters that want to write quality business. And when we go out to market on behalf of the client, we're making those underwriters fight each other to win your business. And when
Amazing.
you have more than one agent going to market on your behalf, that fighting between underwriters doesn't happen. You have
Yeah.
agents fighting. You don't want
Yeah.
agents fighting. You want to have one representative who makes the underwriters fight.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, that's definitely the insurance world. So, okay, so last question, because you've educated us. I think a lot of HVAC people will watch this, and you learned something, right? You
Yep.
learned a lot about insurance. You learned also a lot about just good, smart ways to run your business and things that you need to do. But your name is James Jenkins. But tell me
Yep.
about what's the company name, and tell us where we can find you.
Yeah, it's a little bit you see the sign back there, Riskwell is the agency. That is our brokerage. HVAC Insure is a vertical that we stood up specific to the HVAC industry. Riskwell is the company name. HVAC Insure is a program that is run by Riskwell. When you get an email from me, it may come from info@hvacinsure.com. It may come from james@riskwell.com. My name's going to be on the email either way, but that's really it. The risk management side of stuff, there's not really any charge for it. It comes as part of the relationship. Occasionally, there may be something we do from a loss control visit or some value add service that we pay a third party to do on your behalf. Occasionally, there's some sort of cost involved. Most of what we do on the risk management side of things is completely free. It's included in the relationship of having us be your insurance broker and representative. So if you want to learn more, go to HVAC Insure or you can always just hit us up on the phone number. Our phone number is 862-1202. That's 888-862-1202. You're going to ask me, are we all over the country? And the answer is yes, we are in all 48 states, with apologies to Hawaii and Alaska. We're not there because there's really no reason for us to be there. If you're there and you got a big enough business, we'll get there. We just don't have a reason to be in Alaska and Hawaii right now, but we are in the other 48. And Michael, this has just been a fantastic conversation. I really appreciate you offering to have me on the show, man.
Yeah, I love it. I'll put all the information in the description. So those that are watching is right there in the description. And thanks a lot, James.